Short films are a type of genre in themselves and so will have specific conventions which can only really be linked to them. One of these is that as an audience we do not need to know a lot about the characters. I found this was common in many of the films I looked at for my research, including The Moonlight Man and Tea Break, as during these we do not learn anything personal about the characters other than what is relevant to the moment's time the short film was set. Another convention of short film is that they are generally under 40 minutes long, which was the case in all other films I studied during research, with most of them ending between 5 and 10 minutes. Because I was allocated a length of time for my film, I had to conform to this convention whether I wanted to or not. However, even if I had the option to make it longer, I do not believe I would have allowed it to go over 10 minutes, as I believe any longer than that, and I would have begun to lose my audience's attention. One convention I partly conform to is that there is no way to tie up all loose ends, and so usually have questions unanswered. My short film was left on a rhetorical question, leaving the audience wondering what the final answer would be. However, I intended to do this from the start as my way of forcing the audience to think and engage more with the film and my narrative. So in some ways, yes, I conformed to this convention, however in some ways I did not, as I wanted to leave it open-ended, and so in some ways my narrative was complete. Despite my film conforming to many of the conventions of short films, it also challenged some of them. One convention I challenged was that short films are generally based on moral undertones, or proverbs. However, my film was not based on either of these. My short film narrative was based on a philosophical argument about addictions. Mostly my inspiration came from the argument which seems to divide so many on whether or not marijuana should be legalised, but the bigger argument of whether or not society has caused our addictions or if our addictions have shaped the society we are currently living in. I also in some way challenged the convention that short films are set in one time period and do not differ out of these, as although we were following the main protagonist in one day on one walk, which would conform to this convention. However, the cutaway shots I used were all in different locations at different times of the day, with no indication as to whether these behaviours were being carried out at the same time as the protagonist is walking, distorting time and space, which is a postmodern element of short films. Because my short film is narrative-led, linking any conventions from other genres is fairly difficult in itself, because as my narrative cannot be linked to any particular genre, as if it were horror or comedy-based story, the style I filmed in and wrote the narrative means it almost appears as a documentary, and so does follow some conventions, such as using both non-diegetic and diegetic sound, as I use ambient sound from within the locations I was in, and things such as kettle water being poured into the mug were all sounds from within the scene. But I also use the soundtrack, which is non-diegetic. Another convention of documentaries is to have a narrator. In my film, my protagonist is the narrator and is seen both on screen and off, and is the only voice heard throughout this film, meaning that all focus is on her and my narrative. While researching short films to inform my own, I began to find elements in each that I wanted to feature in my own short film. For example, when I initially decided I wanted to use voiceover as my main means of communication, I had no intention of showing my character talking. However, I watched a short film about a girl and saw how they followed the protagonist walking along, talking to the camera and breaking the fourth wall. I thought this worked rather well and helped me to engage more with the film, and so decided that I wanted to use this for my own film and began to base my decisions around this. I also watched Let Go. During this storyline, it at first appears fairly normal and nothing out of the ordinary happened. However, at the end of the film, we find out something rather shocking which gives the entire short film an interesting twist. This was found within a couple of different short films I'd researched, such as Flirt, in which we find out that it's the woman who is blind and not the man. This had shock value but does not appear in a cheap way. I found I preferred short films which featured this, and so came to the conclusion that I wanted to do something similar. After thinking through my narrative idea, I decided that I wanted my protagonist to do cocaine at the end. I wanted her to first come across as just a typical girl. I also felt this would bring across my final point and create a twist that the audience weren't expecting. To keep all of my work appearing as if it was all part of the same project, I worked to develop a theme throughout, and to ensure this was followed through with my blog, film, magazine review and poster. My theme was fairly simplistic, choosing substance over style. The main colours I used throughout were black, white and grey. I chose these as they all look fairly professional yet are effective when used together without looking too dull. I felt this looked fairly minimalistic and gave a postmodern feel I was hoping to achieve through my work. The colour of my blog is black, as I felt this kept it looking sleek and elegant, and also meant that all the blog posts would stand out against this background. All of the text within my blog is mostly grey but with some white, as I felt this would help to differentiate between titles and main body text. My final poster design is fairly simplistic in colours. The photograph of my protagonist in black and white with mostly white text, except the second half of the word addicted is in an orange. I chose to do this to give the impression of the word appearing as a cigarette, which fit in with what my film was talking about. Apart from this, the poster is mostly black, white and grey, which fit with my film. My colour scheme partially disappears in my film review, as one page has a light orange background. I did this as it fit with the magazine style I was imitating. However, I decided an orange to link with my poster and the orange colour of the cigarette, so in some respects my magazine and poster have their own colour scheme which is not present within my blog, but I feel this works well as it sets them apart and helps them to make my work more appealing. I feel that my work all fits well together as this is all fairly creative. For example, my poster design has more substance than some film posters, as I have the title creating a cigarette, which looks like it's burning at the end, which is a creative aspect I hope to added to more professional and creative appeal than a regular poster. My magazine review is based from one of the more artistic style magazines, Little White Lies. As I felt this was the right choice of magazine, I did not believe the others I researched represented my film as closely as this one. My blog has a wide variety of posts, from pictures to vlogs, and so I feel shows a level of creativity, which again fits with my poster and magazine. My film itself was fairly creative as I decided to create a narrative-led short film with no definitive storyline, which many short films follow. As I wanted to step outside the box, I based it on a topic which can sometimes be controversial, and so I had to be careful how I created my script to ensure not to limit my audience. So overall, all of the components of my work are very creative and so work together to show this. Initially, when I began to create my poster and magazine, I struggled to work out what my brand was. However, once I looked through my blog and rewatched my film, I realised that I had generally gone for the substance over content, rather than how the initial look appeared. I also saw that the tones were generally fairly dull and that I wished to continue this look with my poster and review, and I thought it was very effective and would help to combine them together as a whole. My theme also helps me to address my target audience as it's simplistic yet elegant enough to appeal to young adults, but has enough edge with the dark colour scheme to keep them interested. Also, the minimalistic style of using a voiceover and few colours is something that many are seeing as the in-trend among various things, such as interior design and fashion. Because my target audience is in the age category of developing their own interests in current trends, however are able to make their own decisions, this was something I kept in mind while writing my script as well as blog posts and magazine review, attempting to create something objective but interesting enough to hold their attention. Because my blog, poster, magazine and film are all very similar in colour schemes and creativity, advertising them as a collective will be fairly easy as they already have a very strongly linked style and work together to show a coherent brand. During the planning, editing and making of my short film, I have had audience feedback throughout to help decide on various elements and to generally find what would be best for my film. When I first began researching who my target audience would be, I went to Cinefest, where I interviewed people about who they believed the main audience attending short films were. Although this research was not necessarily directly linked to my short film, nor was it audience feedback, it did allow me to focus on who I needed to create my short film for, and this in itself made me change how I approached my ideas. I wanted something to interest this particular age group of people, and I decided I wanted it to contain a subject that was more adult than just storytelling, but I also realised that because the age group is fairly mature, I could create something that would leave them thinking at the end. This meant that when I was researching other short films, I attempted to divert away from any that were fairly simple or were overly family friendly, hence why I began to look at short films such as About a Girl, which later helped to influence the idea for my own short film. Because of this, I feel that without my target audience research, I possibly would not have decided on the same idea that I did. When I initially came up with the concept for my short film, I delivered a pitch to present my idea and gain feedback. The feedback overall was positive, giving me the confidence in my idea. However, at the time presenting, my idea was not yet solid and there were some aspects of it I was not certain on. For example, I did not have a particular direction I was aiming in and instead was just planning a narrative randomly talking about the subject of addiction. However, when I gained some audience feedback, many suggested I needed an idea of how my character would feel about addictions and different behaviours, as well as begin to decide why some behaviours are legal and why some are not. Due to this feedback, my entire idea began to gain some ground as to what I was hoping to create. I had already decided that I wanted a film that would leave the audience asking questions or to at least leave them thinking. This helped to solidify my idea. Because of this, my idea began to change and my narrative more focused on individual points of addiction as opposed to addiction as a whole, which I believe made it appear much more refined and professional. While practicing writing my script, I asked some people for feedback on them, many coming out with the same ideas for improvement and what they liked and didn't like about them. Although this feedback was fairly simple and there was nothing of major importance that changed what my narrative was about, it did mean that my script was more direct and made more sense overall. The people I asked would have fallen in the correct group for my target audience and so felt it was important that they found it easy to understand as well as interesting. From this feedback, I made certain changes to my script which I felt overall helped to add to the final product of my short film. After I finished editing my short film, I screened it to an audience, handing out questionnaires to be completed after they have watched it. Through this, I gained audience feedback on a large scale and from an audience who were all different ages and from different backgrounds. The main feedback I received was that the sound quality throughout the film was very patchy, meaning that my voiceover was in some places too quiet in general, while in other places the ambient sound was too loud and so meant my voiceover could not be heard. Because of the poor sound quality, it ruined the overall effect I had been hoping to achieve with my voiceover. After receiving this feedback, I decided to focus on my editing on the sound, in hopes of creating a more consistent level. The majority of my audience thought the film worked well without background music and meant that I did not have to worry about adding that in, as I felt it would have caused more problems with sound, trying to ensure that the voiceover could still be heard through several layers of various sounds. Overall, gaining feedback throughout the process of making my short film was an important aspect in its development, as it allowed me to have insight into the process of making my short film and how it would come across to the audience, and so allowed me to alter my film so it is the best it can be. I made changes to the film due to audience feedback which I felt I would not have done had I not received this help. During the planning, research and making of my short film, technology played a major part, as without it I would not have been able to do any of it. To plan for my short film, I used the internet to find other films in order to gain inspiration for my own, using sites such as YouTube to find various types and styles. Finding many that were of interest led me to begin deciding on what style short film I would like to create. I also used the internet to search the different types of short films, such as the differences between creating a narrative-led and genre-led film. While researching these, I began to focus in on the areas that seemed to draw me in and made me start to develop my own ideas, such as I very quickly decided that I wanted to create a narrative-led short film, as I thought these were the most interesting and would allow the most creative freedom. I also decided that after some research I would create a film using a voiceover. After deciding on this, I began to research scripts to help me write my own, and throughout the planning and research stages, technology played a major part even if it was just using the internet. While making my film, I used a camera to capture my footage. I had not used this type of camera before and so was unsure of how it worked, especially as it included a feature to take photographs with, which I had not encountered before. However, I found this very useful as I wanted to do the photo shoot on location, so I did not have to attempt to mimic the same conditions in order to capture my character in the same way as I had in the film. The camera had a flip screen, meaning that I could see what was being recorded without having to look through the viewfinder, making it easier to focus on where I was walking or how I was moving the camera to get the right shots. This meant my vision was not being restricted. Whenever I went out to get cutaway shots, I ensured to use the same camera. This meant that the quality of footage remained the same throughout all of my shots, keeping it clean and professional. During post-production, I used more technology than I had throughout the planning, research and making processes of my film, as this is where it was needed most. To edit my short film, I used Premiere Pro. I have used this previously and so was fairly confident in how to use it and what was needed to be done. However, I needed to change the speed duration of some of my cutaway shots and had not previously done this, and so decided to use the internet to find out how. Alongside Premiere Pro, I also used After Effects to create the titles at the beginning, which included the definition of addicted and the end credits. I had previously used After Effects before to create titles and so was fairly confident in my abilities. Once I started a new project on there, I had to take a few moments to remember how to create titles, but it did not take me long, especially as I did not want to use effects on my credits, instead just using plain black background and white text. Because I was aware of how to use these programs, it meant I could be slightly more ambitious in what I was hoping to achieve. so was not restricted by lack of knowledge. Because of my understanding of the programme, my short film had more effects and was edited to a higher standard and quality. But despite this knowledge, I refrained from doing anything for the sake of it. For example, I could have put more effects in my credits, but chose not to as I did not feel it would have added any beneficial value to my short film. To create the poster for the advertisement of my short film, I used Photoshop, as this is a technology I'm very confident using. Initially, taking a photograph of my protagonist and using that as the background to begin to create my design. Deciding on a landscape design throughout my research, I found this worked well. I used different effects such as changing opacity levels and using different textures on the font used for my title to give it an effect of a cigarette burning. Because I wanted to use a font that was not in Photoshop itself, I went onto the internet and used the website DaFont to find a more suitable style of text which I felt worked well and helped to enhance the overall quality of my poster. For the information at the bottom of my poster, I researched various film posters on Google to find out what is generally written there. This research also helped me to decide which typeface would work best for this particular part of my poster. Lastly, I used InDesign to create the magazine review for my short film. I had not used InDesign before, and so this technology was entirely new to me. Because of this, I went onto YouTube to find a beginner's tutorial, which allowed me to begin to understand how InDesign worked and would later allow me to create my own 2-page spread magazine. For this particular part of the project, I also used the internet to research magazines which feature film reviews to help me write my own. I focused mainly on Little White Lies, as this was a magazine I thought would sit well with my own film, and their own film reviews gave me insight into how they are written, thus helping me to produce my own. Technology played a large part during the creation of my short film throughout all aspects, including research, planning, and the making of it.